Hi kids. I'm going to read chapter 7 to you from our book today because we're going on a virtual field trip together during our conference time. So we are on chapter 7, page 62 of These Are My People by Mildred T. Howard. The riot. Gladys didn't realize how soon her own faith would be put to the test. One day a messenger arrived from the governor. "There's a riot in the prison," the messenger cried. "You must come." Gladys shook her head. "What could I do? That's a job for a man." "You must come. It's the governor's order." The frightened messenger insisted until Gladys agreed to go see what was the matter. When she arrived at the prison, the governor was waiting outside. His face was pale. "Listen," he said nervously. Gladys didn't need to listen. She had heard the yells and shrieks as she walked up the hill. "The prisoners are killing each other," the governor said. He placed his hands into his wide sleeves and tried to look at Gladys with authority. "You must stop them." "Me?" Gladys gasped. "Why me?" "The guards are afraid. You must do something." "I'm only a missionary woman," she said. "What could I do? Send for the soldiers." "I did, but they are frightened." "There are not enough of them," the governor replied. "You must go inside the prison and stop the riot." "Are you crazy? They would kill me." "How could they kill you?" the governor said simply. "You say you have the living God inside you." "The living God?" "You have gone throughout our towns and villages preaching about the living God. You say he's with you always. If your words are true, then you can stop this riot." For a moment, Gladys didn't speak. The governor was right. If she didn't trust God now, she would never again be able to reach these people for Christ. "Let me in," she said quietly, her face now as pale as the governor's. The governor produced a huge key and opened the door. Trembling, Gladys stepped inside. The door slammed behind her and she heard the key turn in the lock. Gladys stood in the entrance to a long tunnel. Far down the tunnel she could see men running about wildly in a courtyard. Gladys felt like Daniel in the lion's den. The thought gave her courage. God sealed the lion's mouth, she thought. He is able to do the same for me. Somehow this will work for the glory of God. She took a step forward. "My God is able to deliver me," she whispered, taking another step. Softly she began to sing in a breathless voice. "A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing. Our helper he amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing." At the end of the tunnel she stopped. The sight that met her eyes was worse than she had imagined. The courtyard was about 60 feet square. Cages of bamboo lined the walls. Several blood-stained bodies were stretched out on the hard-packed clay ground. As she watched in horror, a group of men rushed across the courtyard. They were followed by a man swinging an axe. Gladys gasped as he charged toward the men. They scattered, each man running for his life. The man with the axe chased the slowest one toward Gladys. Just in front of Gladys, the terrified runner swerved aside, and Gladys was left facing the man with the axe. Suddenly, Gladys was furiously angry. She took 2 steps forward and shouted, "Give me that axe!" The man stopped, short, and stared at Gladys. She reached forward and took the axe, letting it hang loosely from her hand. "The rest of you," she screamed, "line up in front of me." The prisoners slowly filed toward her and formed a line. Gladys looked at the dirty, miserable faces. Her fear disappeared. "You should be ashamed of yourselves," she scolded. "What is the meaning of all this?" When they looked at each other and didn't answer, Gladys said, "Appoint a spokesman. I intend to find out just what is going on here." One man was chosen. He stepped forward. "The rest of you, clean up this mess," Gladys demanded, pointing to the bloody bodies. "I'll deal with you later." She turned toward the spokesman. "Now, tell me what happened." "We are given an axe for an hour a day to cut up our food," the man said. "But the only food we have is what our relatives send us. Not everyone gets food. It's hard to watch others eat when you are starving. Things got out of hand today. We are sorry." Gladys looked at the thin, scrawny bodies of the men. "Not enough food?" The men nodded in agreement. "What are you doing here all day?" Gladys asked. "Nothing," the men replied. Gladys heard a sound behind her. She turned to see the governor and the soldiers coming through the tunnel. The governor gave Gladys a look of awe. "You have worked a miracle," he said. "Not I," Gladys replied, "but my God. He is the only one who works miracles." "Yes, the living God is powerful indeed," the governor exclaimed. "You must give these men food," Gladys demanded. "Some of them are starving." The governor nodded. "It will be done." "And give them something to do. They must not sit idle all day with nothing to occupy their minds and hands." "Yes, Awede," the governor said as Gladys handed him the bloody axe. "It shall be done as you say." When Gladys returned home, she asked Yang what Awede meant. "It means the virtuous one," he replied. From that time on, Gladys was called Awede by the Chinese people. They had always admired Gladys's courage and kindness, but after all, she was only a woman. When she stopped the riot, she was regarded with respect. The living God who had enabled her to do such an impossible deed was regarded with awe. Gladys found that the Chinese people were even more interested in the gospel than ever before. When she realized why, she remembered the thought that had crossed her mind before she entered the long dark tunnel. Somehow this will work for the glory of God. And so it had. Thank you for reading along with me.